Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! Alright, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Bartlett, I curse the ground you walk on. I despise the very air that you breathe.
So nothing's changed in 20 years of friendship. Joe Giammatteo.
You know, guys, there's a lot of good lines from this show, but right now I'm seeing a 316 on my pager, and I think I might have to go.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. Good old JB. And we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on January 5th, 1998, the first Raw of 1998. This Raw was recorded at the New Haven Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut, and features Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, Michael Cole, and Kevin Oh My God Kelly on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. It's like a switch got flipped or something going into 1998 because we kicked this off with Stone Cold Steve Austin walking through a parking lot, and every one of the words he said was censored at the start of this. I guess we're going to go big or go home in 98. Austin was doing some trash talking about the upcoming Royal Rumble, saying that Steve Austin is going to do unto others before they do unto him. Set your channel and stick around while Stone Cold raises some hell. And I popped. Right off the bat, popping me. After the intro video, we got going with entrance music from the Nation of Domination and our first match of the night. Ken Shamrock defeats Faarooq with D'Lo Brown and Kama by submission in 5 minutes and 3 seconds. I love the video replay of the last time these two met, back in September, with Faarooq puncturing Shamrock's lungs and various other organs from a hellacious spine buster. That was followed by great footage of Ken Shamrock tapping out D'Lo and Kama. Faarooq jump-started this match, and my God, I got goosebumps. Both of these guys were working strong and fast. This looked fantastic right from the get-go. I liked that wiener, Earl Hebner, was keeping the Nation off of Shamrock when he got thrown out of the ring after a particularly stiff kick to the kidneys. The second time that happened, though, Earl remembered to be distracted by Faarooq so Kama and D'Lo could work on Kenny at the outside. But then there was a sudden chorus of boos, and we broke to commercial on the image of The Rock standing at the top of the entryway, observing the action in the ring. We came back to Shamrock reversing Faarooq and Ken getting kicked in the face for his troubles. The plot thickened as The Rock called away the Nation to confer on the ramp, leaving Faarooq alone to keep working on Shamrock. Faarooq had been mostly in control from the start of this, and was still looking strong as hell with these fantastic-looking power moves, more or less just treating Shamrock like a rag doll in the ring. Ken sold the shit out of all of it. When the Nation was back around the ring, The Rock had joined them and was acting kind of like a coach there at the apron. When Kenny started to snap, it looked great too. He was still holding his ribs and then just screaming and started wailing on Faarooq. That didn't last long, though. Faarooq was able to get out of the corner, but during some rope work and interference that was apparently directed by The Rock, Kama accidentally hit Faarooq with a chair, giving Ken the opportunity to body slam Faarooq, apply the ankle lock, and get the submission victory. The Rock made a big show of expressing disgust and disappointment with the loss, while Faarooq chewed out Kama, and commentary made sure to again point out that The Rock was directing traffic when Faarooq got hit with the chair. While that argument was happening, The Rock got in the ring to try to stare down Shamrock, and this was a great sight. The Rock was dressed like a superstar here and made a big show of removing his jewelry and starting to unbutton his designer shirt to get ready to go at it. But then out of nowhere, Stone Cold Steve Austin, with stunners and middle fingers for both Shamrock and The Rock, before literally diving headfirst over the crowd barrier to slither out of there like a rattlesnake. JR reminded us that the common theme between these three is that all three will be part of the Royal Rumble later on this month, and it looks like Austin is doing some preemptive ass whooping. And that is where this segment wrapped up. It's no surprise at this point, I would hope, that I was rock hard for this match. We got great progress here in both angles between Shamrock, The Rock, and Faarooq, but we also tied it in very nicely with putting over Stone Cold and putting over the pay-per-view this month. I mean, I don't know when I'll get tired of saying it, but this whole segment was nothing but the right choices. Joe, what did you think of how we're kicking off the first Raw of 1998 here?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we start the show with Steve Austin out in the parking lot, like you mentioned, saying that he's going to raise some hell, so that's going to keep us tuned in. And then, obviously, later in this match, he makes an appearance to raise that hell, which is great. I feel like we haven't seen a Faarooq match in forever, so this was nice to see.
Didn't he pick up some type of injury a little bit ago that they were kind of working around?
Yeah, he may have. You know, and it was kind of predictable, I guess, that somebody was going to cost Faarooq this match, but this was still very entertaining, I think. You know, great storyline here going with The Rock. You know, he's going to go up against Ken Shamrock at the Rumble, and he's also got this thing going with Faarooq, and now Faarooq is pissed at the other guys for costing him the match. So, you know, really good job of meshing all those stories together, and then Austin comes in and gives the stunner. Again, setting up the Royal Rumble. Austin's going to go after everybody. He has no friends, so he wants to win that Royal Rumble and get his shot at the title. And nobody sells a stunner better than The Rock, in my opinion, so I always like to see The Rock get the stunner.
Yeah, you know, with Stone Cold, it starts right at the beginning. They put their biggest superstar on the television right as the cameras start, and they tell the crowd, I'm going to show up all night. Keep the fucking channel tuned here. So what a good job to keep people watching Raw all night so they get to see Stone Cold. And the very first match delivers. Shamrock and Faarooq put together a really good-looking match. JR, of course, had to point out that Faarooq played football with the Sentinels. That was a very important thing for JR to point out. And when The Rock came down, when he started walking down this ramp, I mean, he's full-blown Rock now. He's got the big blousey, like suede shirt on, you know, the dress pants, big gold chain and glasses. I mean, this is what we remember from The Rock. He's there look-wise now. And really, once The Rock came out, this continued to be a good match and good story all around, you know, right up until the accidental chair hit to continue this wedge that's being driven between Faarooq and the rest of his team. And then we end it with Stone Cold making good on his promise from the start of the episode, coming out here and dishing out stunners like Kane dishes out gooselings. It was good to watch, enjoyable.
Well, you know what? I absolutely agree, and I'm sure that feeling will continue through the next segment. After a few highlights of upcoming material, including an amazing view of boxing promoter Don King. I mean, I had almost forgotten about Don King up to this point. We went back to the arena and to a view of James E. Cornette leading two unknown suits to the ring. This is a piggyback off of Cornette's op-ed last week where he criticized the WWF and other modern wrestling outfits for being more entertainment and less sport. Cornette introduced Howard Brody and Dennis Coralluzzo, the VP and president, respectively, of the NWA, that's the National Wrestling Alliance.
Whoever the fuck that is.
Yeah. I didn't know back in 98 what it was. Cornette said that these gentlemen were here to confer the NWA North American Heavyweight title upon the winner of our next match. Jeff Jarrett defeats Barry Windham by pinfall in 3 minutes and 35 seconds to win the NWA North American Heavyweight Championship. 3.5 minutes in the second spot on the card really gives you a good idea how much respect this was being given in Titan Towers. At least that was my read on the situation. During that intro from before, Cornette did a really great job of putting over both Windham and Jarrett. And when the match got going, it definitely had that catch as catch can old-timey feel to it. And by that, I mean a lot of stalling at the start. Windham did hit a great suplex with a rollover into a pin for a 2 count. That looked really good. And at one point, it was highlighted that referee Tim White did not know the NWA rules, which eventually led to NWA President Dennis Coralluzzo distracting the ref ostensibly to correct the ref's rule enforcement, but that was also while Cornette snuck into the ring, blasted Barry Windham with his racket, and then very lively jumped back out of the ring for Jarrett to get the pin and the win. Cornette grabbed a mic and immediately put over Jarrett. They then made a show of presenting Jarrett with the belt while Barry Windham rolled out of the ring and into obscurity.
Where he came from.
Jarrett celebrated in the ring until out of nowhere, Stone Cold Steve Austin runs in, hits the stunner, mocks Jarrett's strut, gives him the double bird, and leaves with a very dominant air. That wrapped up this match, and while I did enjoy Austin's run-in, I think the other thing I want to highlight is that this was probably the best Barry Windham has looked in the WWF in the late 90s run. So, I mean, take that for what it is, but Ryan, what did you think of the lead-up, the match, and its aftermath?
Well, I mean, the lead up, seeing Don King, I kind of had the exact same response you did. Just holy shit, it's Don King. When you see that
quite a sight,
air blast hair job that he has, it's unforgettable. Unfortunately, the match was kind of forgettable. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just, I didn't care and was slightly confused as to why we're having this NWA Championship match here on WWF. I don't know. The match started, and because we don't know what it is, we spend the first half of the match in split screen so they can explain to us and give us the whole rundown of the NWA history and why Jeff Jarrett matters in the NWA history. I mean, it seemed a little bit cobbled together as far as I'm concerned. But this is the first, I think, legitimate match that we've seen Jeff Jarrett in, though, since he came back. He had that thing with The Undertaker, but even that kind of quickly was over. So I guess it was good to see him in a legitimate match, and I suppose I could say the same thing about Blackjack Wyndham. It's been a long time since he's been in a legitimate match, being part of the tag team division. So Cornette, though, are we working him back in as a manager? He comes out here and smacks Barry Windham with his tennis racket, so I don't know if he's going to end up being Jeff Jarrett's manager moving forward or what we're doing with him. Kind of everything about this segment, it needed some more explanation, I think, is the best way to put it. But none of that matters. As we're going to see a couple times tonight, it's going to get saved by Stone Cold. He comes in, nails the fucking stunner. This is a famous scene. I've seen it many times where Austin mocks the strut after giving the stunner, and it is a beautiful sight. I loved seeing that mocking strut out of Austin, and then the middle finger, and then he gets out. So that part was enjoyable, but kind of a forgettable match and segment, though.
Yeah, Barry Windham can go back to stalking animals in the woods where he belongs now. He comes out introduced as Barry Windham. I think they put on the screen Blackjack Wyndham. He was the stalker not that long ago. Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares
about Barry Windham at all. So, and he's in this title match, which seems odd. So it seemed like basically a setup for Jeff Jarrett to do something, and that seems very forced because Jeff Jarrett is not over with the crowd at all as a heel or a babyface. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. I mean, this angle they're doing with NWA and Jim Cornette, it could maybe work if they do it right. I don't remember much of anything with this angle, so there's probably a good reason for that. But I do look forward to, I guess, analyzing why it did not work. I mean, to me, this already sticks out like a sore thumb as far as the direction the WWF is going. It just doesn't fit in. Austin coming in and saving the day was just that. He basically saved this whole thing by coming in and stunning Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, I remember this angle fairly well from back in the day. I mean, not in detail necessarily, but I more or less remember where it goes and how it gets there.
Lucky you.
Rewatching this, yeah, right, of all the things that I wish I could remember.
Well, you are an 18%er.
I mean, I try not to brag, but
proud 18%er.
Yeah.
But I mean, how much give a shit could we possibly have worked up given that the build-up for this was a 2-minute promo last week from Jim Cornette that really didn't address it at all? I mean, that's the launching pad for this. that's the context that we're given for it.
At least more excitement than for the next match.
No.
Yeah.
Where is this show again? What city are they in?
New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they could have waited till they were somewhere down south or, somewhere more in that territory, but...
Right. Somewhere where it made sense a little bit more.
Yeah.
People up north there, they're like us, man. We didn't watch any NWA was not on television when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they would have done like a few weeks of Cornette's op-eds and maybe halfway through, like a couple weeks in, he starts saying, I'm so tired of this, I'm going to bring back the NWA. And then like a couple weeks later, we get to this.
Yeah.
Zero build up to it.
Yeah. Any more context than what we got, All right. After a commercial break, we went backstage to Ken Shamrock, who was ready to cut a promo on Stone Cold Steve Austin going into the Royal Rumble. And this was a serviceable promo. Kenny still needs to work on his mic skills. Thankfully, it was short and to the point, though. It wasn't terrible, but, Ken was never all that great on the mic anyway. So that was followed by Sonny.
Whew.
Coming out to the ring in a schoolgirl outfit. And I'm talking the short pleated skirt, the stockings, the pigtails, by God.
The lollipop.
Looking better than Sable could ever hope to.
Yeah.
And that was my next note. Even sucking on a lollipop, for God's sake. Ha!
Yeah.
She was there to be the guest ring announcer for our next match. The Disciples of the Apocalypse, Skull and 8-Ball, defeats the Truth Commission, Sniper and Recon, with the Jackal by pinfall in 3 minutes and 39 seconds.
Talk about a bait and switch. Start with Sonny and then lead into this.
Gotta have some reason for people to stick around. The Jackal made sure to kiss a teenage girl on the way down. I mean, that was fucking creepy again. Sniper and Recon didn't get the memo to stay in the fucking kiddie pool, I guess. They were still wearing their Halloween costumes. I was kind of confused because, I thought the Jackal was trying to get this whole deal away from that garbage. I have no idea what's going on with them. I don't think anyone else does either. And that's not to say that any of this is worth thinking about at all, though. So the fucking Jackal joined commentary. I really wanted to vomit. And I guess the Jackal is going to be in a match at some point in the future. I didn't note when or where because I don't give a shit. I'm sure that will suck if we have to end up watching it.
A 60-minute Iron Man match on the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll both give it 5 stars, too. Some of the garbage you guys have been throwing out.
No, it's not a boot camp match.
Yeah.
So we won't be
with a 60-year-old.
Or involve, in your opinion, the worst wrestler ever, Shawn Michaels.
Besides the cartoonishly passé outfits of the Truth Commission, I also couldn't help but notice how bad of a cover-up job got done on the Nazi fuck brothers' SS tattoos. You can still clearly see the SS symbol in there on their arm.
Well, they are Nazi fuck brothers.
The finish came and went. That drew the fucking Kurgan down to the ring. Ugh. One of the Nazis got the claw applied directly to the forehead. I repeat, directly to the forehead. The Jackal got in the ring to slap the Kurgan and then walk away, and it was over.
Compelling.
I just don't fucking understand why this is still on our screens. I know there's probably a fixation on the Kurgan as a monster superstar, but why does that have to bring the rest of the Truth Commission with it? Sonny's entrance was the only good part about this whole segment. Joe, what did you think about it?
Well, I'm surprised that you don't think it was the most gripping television that you've ever seen.
Well, the only gripping going on was on the forehead, directly on the forehead.
Well, and speaking of that, not even Sonny can save this for me, and that's saying a lot. I can't stand this shit. The Kurgan gets booed immediately. Thank you, New Haven. That is go home heat, by the way. That is
100% go home heat.
They fucking hated it, and so did I.
It's the fucking Truth Commission and DOA. I mean, how do you think I was going to feel about this? I heard the Truth Commission, luckily we had Sunny at the beginning. She helped lessen the blow of this match, but the moment I heard those stupid fucking engines and, I knew it wasn't Chainsaw Charlie and his chainsaw. It was those familiar honey dipping bikes, and out came the fucking DOA. And between this and the Los Barriquos, these three factions have just round robin each other for a year now. Just every week they just mix it up, who's gonna go, and then we get the fucking Jackal on the mic again. Like, I thought JR was pretty clear last time that he thought the Jackal sucked on the mic. So, like, why do they continue to shove him into commentary?
It's probably to torture JR.
Michael Cole and him argue back and forth for pretty much the whole match for some of the worst television I've ever seen. And then we end it with the fucking human lump of lats comes out, Kurgan, and he just he does his worthless lumbering around. He fucking stupid claw moves one of the Nazi fuck brothers, and that's the end. Man, what a fucking terrible few minutes of television.
Yeah. I think the best irony happening here is that the Jackal is supposed to be a cult leader, and cult leaders typically have charisma, and he doesn't at all. He's like Sable. He is negative charisma. It's a great thing he's doing a whole cult leader gimmick. Then yeah, he's fucking perfect for that. And as far as Sunny goes, I mean, there's no grip required there. That's about the loosest, sloppiest Soma handy you'll ever feel.
Jeez. She deserves better than this bullshit, though. This and the fucking whatever else she was doing for ring announcing.
Announcing the fucking Truth Commission.
Yeah.
Poor Sunny.
Moving along, as far away from that as we can get, we got a Twix rewind back to the 7 angry jobbers last week. Kane and The Undertaker clearing the ring together. That was followed by the seizure-inducing Degeneration X entrance. Triple H was in a wheelchair being wheeled down by Chyna. Shawn was walking alongside, and it really seems like Try's leg injury is real. It's a dislocated kneecap. He's apparently going to be visiting Dr. James Andrews pretty soon, so it was good to hear that name drop. It's not some bum in a back alley in Philadelphia. I did note, though, that Shawn had a lollipop in his mouth. Looked a lot like the same flavor that Sunny had. Just saying. Triple H called out Owen Hart to come out and play, but rather than entertain him, Owen had a pre-recorded video up on the Titantron. This was a pretty decent video, all things considered, but it was automatically neutered by the fact that it was pre-recorded and DX was live in the ring. Their responses, any seriousness that was attempted from Owen was immediately dismissed and ridiculed with no opportunity for Owen to come back. But it did attempt to lay the groundwork for Owen's Blackheart gimmick, which I completely forgot about. I noted that he emphasized that he had had Shawn in his sharpshooter, that being Owen's, and I feel like that's also a mistake. Owen needs to build his own thing outside of the shadow of Bret Hart, and he can't do that using Bret's finisher, taking part in an already settled feud with Bret's old rivals. And that segment is what finished out the first hour of Raw. So before we move along, Joe, what did you think about our chat with DX?
Well, Try cuts a promo on Owen Hart, which is appropriate because Owen is basically a jobber now. Then Owen shows up on the Titantron with that pre-recorded video like you mentioned. The Black Heart gimmick, I'm not sure it's working for me, brother. He was doing a little bit of overacting, I think, in my opinion here, like clenching his teeth, trying to be, mean. But I don't know, I'm not really buying it. I liked where they were going with Owen before, how he's, coming out of the crowd wearing jeans and boots and a leather jacket and beating people up. I liked that version of Owen that they have already ruined. So, I can't really get into this, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, this was fine, I guess, in my opinion. I don't have a ton against it, but it was nothing fantastic either, that's for sure. We do learn Triple H's injury from last week, which I thought was a swerve, appears to be an actual injury. So, that was interesting. I didn't remember that Triple H got injured here. When they get in the ring, Try decides to make one last implant joke about Chyna. It landed, pretty good, just like the other ones did. And then he goes into talking about wood and whatnot. Then we do get Owen up on the Titantron. And I agree, this was probably one of Owen's worst promos. It just, like you said, it sounded kind of overacting or over trying, like just something wasn't hitting right with this promo out of Owen. We then ended with Triple H telling Owen to watch his back. And then Michael Cole says, I wonder if that's some type of veiled threat. And I'm thinking, no, it's not veiled at all. It was a pretty blatant threat. He told Owen to watch his back, you fucking moron. I'm going to end on Michael Cole being a fucking moron.
Yeah, so it made me wonder with this. Owen is the last one left of any of the Harts. Neidhart is gone. Brett's obviously gone. Bulldog isn't coming back. So who is really left to keep him from making bad decisions? I started to wonder if maybe the whole time it was maybe just Owen listening to Brett on how he should dictate his career, and without that input there, he's just kind of flapping in the wind here. I don't know. I'm just spitballing what might be going on with Owen, because it's just, we've mentioned it a few times, but just ruined.
I think it might be the pay window, pal.
Well, I think it's a pay window and a little bit of being a victim of the circumstances here that Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon are going to put him in.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of, let's go into our next match. Owen Hart defeats Savio Vega with Los Boricuas. That's Jesus Castillo, Miguel Sasquatch Perez, and Jose Estrada. I didn't even try that time. By pinfall.
Neither did he.
4 minutes and 7 seconds. God, the rap thing is just so terrible. They weren't trying here either. And what's funny is that, I was going to say before with DX that Owen ought to be, moved to a different program with someone else. But for the love of God, this isn't what I meant.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Owen's looking good, he's got the shorter hair and he's got kind of a beard now. He's trying to develop his look, and I think that's working for him at least. JR on commentary was making a point of highlighting how deranged Owen had sounded in his video earlier, which I didn't hear at all. I'm not sure if you guys did, but it was many things. It was not deranged, though.
No.
And, of course, DX came out to the top of the entryway to watch and distract Owen, and a little part of me died inside with that. A ref came out to kick out the Boricuas. They ignored him. Owen did apply the sharpshooter, and I was hoping that wasn't going to be the finish. Thankfully, I was right. And after his victory, the Boricuas jumped Owen and carried Owen up to where DX was hanging out. They held Owen down while Triple H slapped the hell out of him. DX slipped Savio some cash, and this was over. So the finish here and the aftermath really pissed me off, because in a vacuum, it's a great way to build an angle. Paying off the Boricuas to deliver Owen and really get some heel heat on DX and the Boricuas, get some babyface heat on Owen too. But in the greater scheme of things, we all know this isn't going anywhere, because any progress that Owen makes gets pretty quickly torn down by DX. It feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back with this angle. At least, that's the way I'm reading it. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
No offense to Savio, but good God, could Owen have fallen down the ladder any quicker in 1 week?
Right.
Last week, he's wrestling for the heavyweight title against Shawn Michaels. This week, he's against a member of fucking Los Boricuas. Jesus fucking Christ. That's really my main takeaway. The action between the two, pretty solid. That's no surprise. Owen, Savio, both ring generals. They've been at it for well over a decade at this point. They know what they're doing. They put together a solid match, but I can't believe that they have just thrown Owen this far down so quickly. They try and shoehorn in that he's still in this feud with DX, but let's be serious, he's not even at it for the belt anymore. His feud is with the injured member Triple H now. How do you have a feud with someone who's about to have surgery? like you kind of pointed out, the very end of this would be interesting if it was actually going somewhere and leading to something that had a bit of a payoff, but knowing where it's going just kind of makes the end worthless and a throwaway.
Yeah, I can't imagine the amount of regret that Owen Hart and his family had when he decided to go back to the WWF after the screw job for obviously more reasons than this. But I mean, he should have just never come back. This is pretty terrible. I'm sure the money was worth it at the time, but this is just him getting humiliated again. And JR mentions at the beginning of the match, he says that Owen's popularity is growing, and unfortunately, he's correct. The fans are behind this Owen Hart, Black Heart thing. That's, he's coming back to get revenge for his family, but they're killing it. They're killing the angle. He gets humiliated here again by DX. I did enjoy Shawn Michaels repeatedly saying "Gracias, amigo" to the Boricuas. I thought that was funny. But outside of that, I mean, this angle, I hope this is the end of it, really. I kind of hope that this is just, we're finished with this, but I feel like we're not, unfortunately.
Yeah, if they would just not do like coming out at the end, if we could have just had Owen beating Savio, and then maybe cutting a quick promo on the mic there in the ring, like, Triple H, someday that's going to be you. And then just kind of change it up a little bit over the next couple weeks, have him take down other mid-carders, slowly build himself up, but keep on mentioning Triple H so that we don't forget.
Yeah, the traditional path for
right.
a baby face.
Right. I mean, after the screw job, that's pretty much what we're doing, is building somebody up from scratch. Owen came out of the screw job as a heel. Well, kinda. He was a heel going into it, I should say. But they had all the potential in the world and just pissed it away. All right, let's see. Next up, Paul Bearer came down to the Undertaker's music. Coming down to the ring, Paul Bearer was absolutely disheveled. No makeup, hair messed up, and commentary did a great job of pointing that out for us. Paul got a microphone and ripped into a promo, cursing the very ground that The Undertaker walks on, and then reveals that he has lost Kane. Paul Bearer was practically weeping in the ring, 6 inches away from the camera while he was screaming. He says that it's not figurative. Paul has literally lost Kane. Paul has searched everywhere for him and can't find him, which is shocking because he's like 7 feet tall and horrifically burned and wears a mask. But this really came across as like to me at least, like a police press conference where the parents of like a missing child plead with the abductor to return their kid. But we really quickly moved away from that to a camera backstage outside of a locker room. There was a commotion going on inside. Finally, Stone Cold Steve Austin exited and said, "Get your damn camera in there and see what I did to the world's strongest man." And I popped. I loved it. Sure enough, Mark Henry was laid out in pain while the headbangers were trying to attend to him. So we'll pause it here, guys. I loved this promo from Paul Bearer. We continue to freshen up the angle by getting to hear from Paul alone this time. We've got the new twist that Kane has gone AWOL. There might be a rift brewing there. And while I did like Stone Cold continuing to terrorize the locker room, I felt like we kind of almost dismissed Paul Bearer as a lesser story in order to get there. I don't know. Ryan, what'd you think of these new developments in the brother versus brother story?
I loved Paul Bearer coming out here. I mean, I find him the most beautiful face in wrestling, so seeing him completely disheveled like this just made him even more beautiful.
Just natural beauty.
Yeah, natural beauty. He doesn't need any makeup. He doesn't need that white cake makeup to make him beautiful. And then he just rips into The Undertaker, and really the way that only Paul Bearer can. The way he just could look into the camera and scream. He does a great job pleading for Kane to come home. And what a great addition to this story, because it's like every time we think that the story's about to get stale just a little bit, they switch it up. They add another layer to this fantastic soap opera. And, that's what it is. But they're doing a great job with it. And now Paul Bearer's looking for the missing Kane. So I'm still, on the edge of my seat wanting to see what's going to happen next there. Stone Cold, it's just kind of the more of the same. You know, he said this is what he was going to do tonight, and he's delivering. He's dishing out these stunners left and right.
Yeah, Paul Bearer delivers a great promo, of course, the pro that he is. He comes off very sleazy in this promo, and that's his character right now. So really nice promo here. I liked when he was walking down and he was all disheveled. JR said, Paul Bearer looks horrible, or should I say more horrible? The King said, hey, watch it. And I thought of Ryan right away when the King said that. Yeah, so good promo from Paul here, and Steve Austin in the back. Again, I love it because we are getting an actual build-up to the pay-per-view. This is Steve Austin just destroying everybody in his path, and that's what he wants to do at the Royal Rumble because he's already told us that his eye is on the big title. So, again, just really good build-up to that pay-per-view.
Yeah, agreed. We'll definitely be talking more about that later. In the meantime, though, let's go to our next match. Marc Mero with Sable defeats Tom Brandi by disqualification in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. There was a history of video package narrated by Michael Cole leading into this. He's degraded Sable by dressing her in a potato sack. I popped when they played the clip of Mero saying he's sick of looking at Sable. And then I popped again when they showed Mero saying, "You're not going to do anything to humiliate me, are you?" I still get a kick out of that. I love it.
Still say this montage was like a trailer for Lifetime.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing was also a treasure trove of bad Michael Cole sound bites. The whole thing, every sentence he said.
And you say that to your wife when you're in the car going pretty much anywhere, right? You're not going to humiliate me, are you?
Only when we're... Never mind. So I don't know if I've said this before, but I really like Mero's new entrance music. It suits his heel turn. It suits the modern era really well. Tom Brandi, on the other hand, he looked like shit, which is to be expected.
Come on, big Italian.
The unfortunate byproduct of this whole angle is that the crowd was chanting for Sable rather than anyone in the ring. Sable ended up taking a couple bumps during the match, and we were shown some of the shittiest acting and selling I have ever seen in my 40 years of existence on this planet. Thankfully, Stone Cold Steve Austin came in out of nowhere to give Marc Mero a stunner. He mocked Mero there with some shadow boxing, and that put this dog of a match down. So, again, guys, I'm still up on Mero as a heel, but I don't know how long that's going to survive. If turds like this are where he's going to keep getting booked, I almost wonder if Mero maybe just, again, didn't have anyone looking out for him to say, your career is being eroded every time the crowd chants for Sable instead of you. But instead, it just kind of feels like he's going to keep getting relegated to being a bit player in whatever story features Sable, and we all know how that's going to turn out. So, Joe, what did you think of this Tom Brandi banger here?
Well, this little rise of Sable, I want to give Marc Mero credit, like you kind of were there. I mean, he's been the highlight for me on this rise of Sable. I know it's going to get ruined when he lets her fucking powerbomb him, but...
We all know what comes on that day.
I can't wait.
I'm going to give him credit up to this point. I think he has done a really great job with this angle.
Yeah.
And we're getting Sable every week now. Like, obviously, the crowds want to see her. People want to see her on TV during this time. So we're getting her every week. And Marc Mero has been pretty entertaining for that whole thing so far. So credit to him there. And yeah, Sable can't fake an injury to save her life. That was pretty bad selling. And I will give her some credit, though. When she was giving Steve Austin the eyes, I think that was some of her best acting and probably will be the best acting that she'll ever give us. So I'll give her some credit, too, there.
Well, I mean, she just smelled money.
I also loved the King saying that she needed mouth-to-mouth and external heart massage.
I'm just going to start off with saying, who would have thought a year ago that all three of us would be praising Marc Mero for his actions? Yeah. Because that's hard to believe, because I agree with both of you. He has really transformed and recreated himself into a heel that I enjoy to hate. It's a shame that he is going to be so associated with Sable, and he's never going to shake that, as far as we know, moving forward. But what he has been dealt, I think he's doing a hell of a job with right now. Part of that is being put into shitty matches with jobbers like Tom Brandi, and just, forgettable match after forgettable match. Crowd chants for Sable, and that's why he's out here. So shame for Marc, but really good job of recreating yourself. Stone Cold comes out, does the stunner like we've been seeing all night again, and then him and Sable lock eyes. I'm not sure I saw Sable blink once during that, but they did set up, I don't know, not from my memory this story goes anywhere, him and Sable, but whatever. You have yet another person that Marc could get jealous about.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I'm on the record more than a year ago, as saying that I thought that the Golden Gloves boxer gimmick was much better than the Wild Man in hindsight. So I'm glad to see that my recollection was proven true. All right, so after a commercial break, we came back to a highlight reel of all of the stunners thus far. And it got its own screen graphic and everything, which led us into our next match. Flash Funk defeats the artist formerly known as Goldust with Luna by disqualification in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Flash Funk was back to being flashy and funky here. Again, I wonder who left the gate of the kiddie pool open.
Hey, he's got normal boots on now, though.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, swapped out his boots.
Well, that's good. I'll take whatever kind of progress I can get. What I noticed is that he did not have the hat, the feather hat.
I think we're probably getting close to where he's going to drop the Flash Funk name.
Here's hoping. But then Goldust came out, and by God, Goldust was in full blackface.
And it's on the cock.
Wearing a fur coat.
They'd have to get rid of the whole match.
With an afro wig. And my first thought was the cock will get rid of Roddy Piper with half of his face painted, but I guess the whole
DX.
face is okay.
Right.
And DX with their
Is that
nation.
one gone too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they wiped that out.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know.
Because that's a pretty famous skit.
Yeah.
Luna was wearing some kind of 70s disco dress. She looked fairly decent, I thought. Flash Funk took umbrage at the blackface, I guess, because he came in hot and worked Goldust over.
Understandable.
Goldust sold it 20 feet away outside of the ring. We got reminded that Goldust and Vader will have a solo match at the Rumble and also each participate in the Rumble. So that was news, I guess. I loved Jerry Lawler saying that Luna never claimed to be a lady, which is correct, but she does claim to be from the future. So there's that. Luna's interference to save Goldust from a moonsault is what drew the DQ. That was followed by Goldust hitting a curtain call on Flash Funk after the bell. But that drew out Vader. JR called him the Buffalo. Goldust ran off up the ramp. Vader was left to celebrate friendship with Flash Funk. I was left wondering why Stone Cold didn't run in on this and add 2 more stunners to the trophy case, because that would have been entertaining. Ryan, I'm not even sure if we could call the blackface thing a product of its time. I mean, in 1998, I don't really think that was still really acceptable. I don't know, but what did you think of all of this?
Yeah, I think we'd have to go back to like the 60s or 70s before blackface would be considered any bit acceptable. So yeah, a bit bizarre. I'm not sure even the crowd really knew how to react when they saw him come out with this Shaft music playing. And, thankfully Flash Funk wasn't having any of it. And he started on Goldust pretty quickly, but I don't know. I feel like that was the whole point of this match was let's have this shock moment and that's it, because the match itself immediately dissolved into nothing when Luna causes a disqualification, and then that causes the 458-pound Buffalo to come out and attack Goldust. The end here, though, I thought it was kind of neat. This was some information that I found when I was doing the Jobber of the Week for Flash Funk. But if you notice, Flash and Vader got very chummy. Like they kind of hug each other and laughing it up. And Vader even started to do a bit of a dance with Flash Funk. And when I did Jobber of the Week, if you remember, they are very good friends. They trained together over in Japan. So that kind of fills in the blank why Vader and Flash were so friendly with each other.
Yeah, that explains the friendship angle there. This doesn't hold up well. It shows the Peacock's inconsistency with their editing. This was very, very strange. The Vader interruption just fell flat too, because nobody really wants to see Vader anymore. And yeah, like you guys said, we forgot that Vader and Goldust had a little feud going here. So yeah, this whole thing was very strange and probably should be removed from Peacock.
No one would notice if you remove this one.
Yeah.
and I also had noted here, too, that, Steve Austin, like, where are you? Please come out and stun all of these guys.
Is Goldust in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, they both are, I think.
I would assume, yeah.
They have a match against each other.
They do, but they are also going to be in the Rumble. JR was very clear about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I thought that was strange. Who would have thought that Vader would be able to spend that much time in a ring in one night?
Ooh.
Yep. All right. Next up, we had a video package highlighting Steve Blackman and the brief time he spent on our screens. But this had a pretty polished presentation. This was to put over Blackman's inclusion in the Royal Rumble and give Blackman a little push on top of it. It was followed by a review of last week's introduction to Chainsaw Charlie as we transitioned into our final match of the night. The New Age Outlaws, that's the Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn, defeat the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, by pinfall in 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Just as I was noting that the Road Dogg's entrance was great, I also noted that the Headbangers got the full jobber treatment here, just as JR was pointing out that they were former tag champs.
Speaking of, I could give when they were jobbers of the week, if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, the Headbangers / the Spiders were our jobber of the week back on the January 16th, 1996 episode.
And then again on January 5th, 1998.
Yeah, they should go back to their flying nun gimmick.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be
better. That would be pretty fun. Once the bell rung, an LOD chant got going. Good God. For the record, LOD not even present in the building.
Haven't been.
Or at ringside. Or the company right now, for God's sakes. I noted Mosh was wearing the Headbangers Real Men Wear Skirts t-shirt. I always wanted one of those back in the day. I never ended up getting one, but that was kind of cool to see. And just when I didn't think I could get any more disinterested in this, the Godwins showed up to stand up on the ramp and watch. Thankfully, though, all they did was stand around for a minute before leaving. I wasn't paying attention to the finish or really what led up to it at all, so maybe one of you guys can fill in that blank. But what did catch my attention was the sound of a chainsaw. And when I looked up from staring off into space, I saw Chainsaw Charlie swinging that chainsaw around like a goddamn maniac. I was very concerned for the safety of everyone involved. JR called Chainsaw Charlie a blithering nut, while the Outlaws ran away and the Headbangers simply disappeared. Poof. Like they were never there to begin with. I just don't know what the hell to think about the tag division anymore. We've got Progress with the Outlaws, and I'm assuming this is going to be a new tag team, Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. They're going to spice things up a little bit. But we've still got the Legion of Doom hanging over our heads, and the rest are just a handful of underperforming tag teams just kind of floating there. Joe, what did you think of all this?
Well, I did like the Cartman Beefcake t-shirt that the Outlaws were wearing. I actually had that shirt back during this time. Yeah, I mean, Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack show up, but nothing exciting even happens when they show up at the end. The Outlaws just kind of leave and walk up the ramp. Like they didn't even run away from them like they were last week. So I thought that was a really shitty follow-up to what happened last week. I think they could have done something a little better there. Terry Funk looks like, I'm sure he's in full control, but he looks like he's out of control, which just shows how great he is. You know, what a true professional he is. I just wish they would have done a little bit more rather than just see the Outlaws like showboating up the ramp. I thought that was kind of shitty.
Wish they would do a little bit more is the moniker for the tag team division.
Yeah.
Because, this had pieces of a good match. The Outlaws, Joe, like you said, when they came down with the beefcake shirts on, I had a smile on my face. Finally, the Outlaws, it seems like the Road Dogg has settled on the entrance that we're used to here. And actually, the match itself wasn't too bad either. The Headbangers actually, put on a pretty good tag team match with the Outlaws here. And then it kind of all went to shit the moment the Godwins showed up on the ramp. Joe, didn't you say the Observers said they're like one of the worst teams of 97 worst things of 97? That alone is kind of a shame because, Henry is a pretty good wrestler and I enjoy him. So it's a shame he's at where he's at. But thankfully, the Godwins just leave without doing anything. Even though it made no sense, I was happy they did that. But Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack come out at the end. And Joe, again, I agree that this was kind of anticlimactic compared to last week when we have Chainsaw Charlie cutting himself out of a box, cutting through doors, the Outlaws running around. It looked like legitimately in fear of their life. That just was all missing this week. I mean, I'm still happy to see Chainsaw Charlie try and cut the ring post, but I wish it would have had a little bit more payoff at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest kick that I got out of all of it was noticing that this week Chainsaw Charlie had pulled some wisps and clumps of hair through the pantyhose and made him look even more maniacal. So that's all I really took away from it. All right, moving along. Last week, JR had announced that the WWF had entered negotiations with Mike Tyson to include Iron Mike in some capacity in this year's upcoming WrestleMania. And to further that, we went to a pre-recorded video from the Baron of Boxing himself, legendary boxing promoter Don King. And if Don hadn't already made himself rich with boxing, Don King could have made his money as a wrestling manager. King put over this negotiation and potential partnership. He was really highlighting the affordable pleasure at an affordable price that you can't afford to miss. And I popped my ass off for that. I loved it.
He's like the original hype man.
Yeah, this was short, but it was entertaining as hell, or at least I thought. So while we are done with the actual wrestling for the evening, we do still have content left in the episode. Joe, what did you think about Don King giving us a WrestleMania promo here?
Don King, only in America, Don King. He's a complete piece of shit, but he is a very good promoter.
Yeah.
And very good use of Don King here. I love this buildup of Mike Tyson because he has yet to appear on the show. And I love this so much better than the random front row seat like fucking Butterbean and
LT.
Yeah, even Lawrence Taylor, they did that little thing where he was up in the front row. I really love this build-up that they're doing with Tyson, and we know what they're going to eventually do, which is going to be even better. So I think they're really knocking it out of the park here with Tyson, which is really important because they're still in that Monday Night War losing.
Yeah.
And this was a big piece of, they were able to finally beat WCW, and this was a big reason for it. So they're doing a really good job with building up to the actual Tyson appearance.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore, especially if you put yourself back in 1998, hearing that Mike Tyson was going to be here. It's still exciting to watch, but back in 98, there wasn't many stars bigger than Mike Tyson, at least sports icons. So it was really cool to see Don King here just doing what Don King does. I mean, everything about his hair, the way he delivered this hype for Mike Tyson's involvement at WrestleMania. Just everything about this was hitting on all cylinders, and Vince McMahon and the WWF really struck gold in getting Mike Tyson and Don King involved here. One last thing I had to point out that I loved is that Don King, at one point, I think he repeated it 3 times in a row, he pronounces Vince McMahon's name like the Honky Tonk Man. So I loved it.
Wrasslin.
All right. Next up, the final segment of the night. Shawn Michaels has been threatening to call out The Undertaker. So before going there, we had to spend some time reviewing the rivalry, mostly focusing on the Hell in a Cell match, which they played most of here, and it was practically the entire goddamn match in bits and bytes, up to and including the debut of Kane.
Including the building video.
Yeah, that was to put over the upcoming casket match at the Royal Rumble. And to further that, Degeneration X's seizure-inducing entrance started up to get Shawn Michaels down to the ring. Shawn Michaels proceeded to call out The Undertaker as promised. And once again, we had Druids bringing a casket down. But this time, Shawn was making like Hunter and Chyna were maybe playing a joke on him or just trying to swerve us like Shawn did to Hunter last week, or Shawn did to all of us last week, I should say. But Hunter and Chyna were actually at the top of the stage, waving their arms around dramatically, and Shawn finally notices them just as he was leaning over the casket, trying to elicit a response from them, and The Undertaker popped up out of the casket, grabbed him by the goozle, and dragged Shawn into the casket as we faded to black. So, guys, I mean, I'm sure it's no surprise that I don't give 2 shits about Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. I don't care about the casket match, and while I do respect the build-up, this isn't really a selling point for me for the pay-per-view. So, Ryan, maybe you can tell me what you and the rest of the 72% thought about the way that Raw ended tonight.
Sure. Me and the rest of the people who don't think The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels are the worst wrestlers to ever grace the ring, I enjoyed this. You know, it was a little bit ham-fisted, like when Shawn was goading Triple H, quote-unquote, in the casket to come out. I think it was kind of telegraphed what was going to happen, you know, to have Triple H and Chyna at the top screaming, you know, no, it's not us. At that point, you were just waiting for The Undertaker to pop out and grab him by the throat. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, this is how you want to end a Raw. You end it with Shawn Michaels being drugged into the casket with The Undertaker, and then we fade to black. That's how you do it. That's how you build up anticipation, and that's how you end on a cliffhanger. I enjoyed it.
I think Bartlett would probably like to see Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker now in 2024 at a boot camp match.
That's more up his alley, yeah.
Yeah. But this was a good segment, I think. Again, we're building up to that pay-per-view. They want us to, you know, be invested in this. It's a casket match, which is always a good gimmick match for The Undertaker. I thought the end was pretty good. It had a little bit of silliness to it, which I liked. It almost made me think of like the Scream movies, where, again, like with The Undertaker, they kind of borrow from horror movies, I think, when they're thinking of creative for him. And the Scream movies, you know, they have a horror aspect to them, but they also have a little bit of silliness to them, and I thought that this was giving me those vibes, and I enjoyed it too. I like that Shawn took the mic into the casket with him, too. I thought that was funny.
I don't know, like, where does it go from there?
To a match.
Like,
to a casket match.
Yeah.
Well, right. So, like, is The Undertaker just going to lay on top of Shawn's unconscious body in a casket for the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever? You know, I mean, that's necrophilia, for God's sakes. We can't have that. How do we come out of the casket, I guess, is what I'm asking.
You got to tune in next week.
Do you ask these questions when someone comes out dressed as the New Year's baby? No. You don't ask, are they going to be a baby for their whole life? How do they get out of the diaper?
You've seen him as a Christmas tree. You've seen him as the New Year's baby.
Well, that's obviously the kind of facetious example I would expect from the 72%.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. As I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
Well, the low light is that not even Sunny could get me up for the match that she introduced.
Yeah.
That was garbage. Highlight was, again, I'm going to go with the build-up for the Mike Tyson story here. I think that I just really like how they're handling it.
So, low light, I'm right there with you, Joe. Fucking Truth Commission, DOA, Jackal, of course. That's the low light. Highlight, I thought that there were a few highlights. You had Stone Cold and what he was doing. That was pretty great. Shamrock and Faarooq, I was very close to giving that my highlight, but I ended up going with Paul Bear's promo, only because it's been a long time since we've got one of these just great Paul Bear promos. And I enjoyed it. Him and his disheveled look, I thought really hit for me.
Yeah, my lowlights, close to you guys, just the simple fact that we had the DOA, the Truth Commission, and Los Perique was all in the same episode. Terrible.
When do we not? It seems like we have like every week for 30 weeks now.
Yeah. Well, but so it stands out to me in this episode because we had so many other awesome things. Like you both have said, there were a lot of potential highlights to choose from, a lot of specific highlights to choose from, but I ended up going with a broader, more general highlight, which was the build-up for the Royal Rumble. Stone Cold handing out stunners, specifically targeting people that are entrants in the Rumble, putting over this match between The Rock and Ken Shamrock. I'm already getting excited to watch the Royal Rumble. They're doing such a great job of putting over the pay-per-view, and that's something that was lacking for almost all of 1997. They didn't try to put over their pay-per-views hardly at all, or if they did, it was at the last minute.
This almost felt like a go-home show. Like, that's how good of a job it was doing building up the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I'm legit excited to watch the Royal Rumble. I think it's going to be great. All right, Joseph, I don't suppose you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around January 5th, 1998, do you?
I do, and Dave Meltzer is rock hard over this Mike Tyson story. There's lots of speculation on how Mike Tyson will actually be involved with WrestleMania. Dave Meltzer is just guessing at this point that he will be a special guest referee, but he's not sure. Dave Meltzer also mentioned that WCW basically stole Dennis Rodman from WWF not too long ago. I guess WWF wanted to use Rodman in a role where he would team up with Goldust. Rodman declined and worked with WCW instead, so this is kind of getting back at them by getting Mike Tyson. So that is a big story. If anybody wants to read The Observer, Dave Meltzer has quite a bit to say about Mike Tyson here. Triple H does have a legitimate knee injury. It is being reported as a dislocated knee and a torn meniscus, so he will probably miss some time. You guys are going to love this. Barry Windham was in that match against Jeff Jarrett tonight.
Yeah.
Doug Furnace was set to be the original opponent for Jeff Jarrett.
What?
For the NWA title. However,
why?
His knee brace wouldn't fit.
No, that's the other guy. That's LaFawn.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Who the fuck cares?
Who cares? Apparently, Doug didn't care because he showed up and did not see his name on the schedule and just left.
Oh.
So they had to round up Barry Windham as a sub for that match tonight.
Way to throw your fucking job away.
Yeah. And last piece of news here is that the WWF started a training camp with Dory Funk and Pat Patterson. So far, the most impressive wrestlers there have been Adam Copeland, who is known as Edge, and Sean Morley, who is known as Val Venus. Dory and Pat are also working with Taka Michinoku so that he does not have to do as many flying moves and can also better his English for interviews. So that would explain why we haven't seen Taka in a couple weeks. He is at training camp with Dory Funk and Pat Patterson, and that is all.
Well, thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most disheveled Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on January 12th, 1998, with matches featuring Jimmy Cicero, the Rock and Roll Express, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.